Welcome to our Where's the Beef video series. I'm Tiffany Lashman, Extension Agricultural Law Specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We're excited to bring you this series of videos related to direct beef sales. Funding for this project was provided by the Southern Risk Management Education Center. As part of that funding, we really would appreciate you taking the time to fill out our evaluation. We'll have a link to the evaluation in the notes below. We'll also have a link and a QR code available at the beginning, middle, and end of each video. In order to fill out our grant reports and complete our grant funding, we really need results from these evaluations. So we are pleading with you, if you watch these videos, please take time to fill out the very quick, very short evaluation. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy our Where's the Beef video series.
My name is Jaime Sepulveda, and I'm a compliance officer with the Retail Food Safety Operations. And our office handles quality assurance, compliance for those types of operations that sell food directly to consumers. For example, restaurants, food trucks, food booths, and things like that.
Hi, my name is Milind Patel. I'm a compliance officer with the Manufactured Food Operations. Our office handles anyone that's repackaging food, processing food for wholesale or customer self-service, or anyone that's private labeling their food product and selling it for customer self-service or for wholesale.
Hi, I'm Bradley Martin. I am an enforcement coordinator within the Meat Safety Assurance Unit. Our department handles all the regulated meat within Texas.
So our division handles any processed food or manufactured food, repackaged food, and in particular, anyone who wants to private label their food, such as meat products that have been inspected by USDA or MSA, and we would give them a food manufacturing label, and that would fall under manufactured foods.
So as far as retail sales, we make sure that a restaurant or a mobile food unit is using meat that's coming from an approved source, so that is checked whether they have a permit with MSA, where that meat is stamped accordingly, it is processed in a licensed facility. And also we make sure that under retail sometimes there are some processes that are under manufactured foods, such as packaging for customer self-service, so we check that as well.
To follow up with that, if a meat product is coming out of a MSA or USDA facility, it has the appropriate labeling and stamps, the product can be sold under manufactured foods. For customer self-service, it's packaged, and once it's under a manufactured food license, it's not to be manipulated but sold as is.
So for MSA, there's two grant types which would be of interest to a direct beef marketer. We have the grant of inspection, also known as full inspection, and we have a grant of custom exemption. Grant of inspection would be to allow the sale of that meat within the state of Texas, wholesale, retail. For a custom exempt inspection, that would be a processed animal for the owner, which is established prior to processing.
For our office, if the firm is simply storing the meat on manufactured foods license, they would just get that license and they're selling the packaged meat as is or distributing it as is. There's not a traditional storefront usually at these facilities. They can also sell at farmers markets, at certain farmers markets under a manufactured foods license.
Texas is a home rule state. We need to establish that. So if they're operating under areas that do not have a local health department, such as the city of Austin or city of Houston, if they're in the smaller counties, smaller areas, they'll need a retail license with DSHS if they're also conducting retail processes like a restaurant or a meat market, something like that, right? So there's a combination of both. They only obtain one of the permits. So in this case, it'll be retail until they've reached $200,000 of manufactured food sales only, right? Until then, the retail permit will be necessary. Yeah, once they get to that $200,000 threshold of manufactured foods sales, yes. Yeah, so if you're under a local health department jurisdiction such as City of Austin, City of Houston, you'll more than likely need both permits. So a retail permit with the local health department and then a manufactured foods license with the Texas DSHS. Yeah, at least one, depending on what type of sales and how much you're making.
Okay.
So if you, for instance, I think Milind touched upon you have any manufactured foods license as a private label, since you had your animals slaughtered and packaged and labeled with your, if you go to a farmer's market, you'll need a retail license for that farmer's market.
Okay.
All right. At the farmer's market, yes, there are some temperature requirements. If you're selling it fresh or unfrozen, 41 degrees or below is the required temperature. If you're keeping it frozen, there isn't a specific temperature, but it is hard and solid to the touch as far as being frozen.
It has to be separate. The rules say it has to be separate from your living quarters. So sometimes what people have is a separate structure built on their land, and that facility needs to be in sanitary conditions, pest-free, not necessarily a 3-basin sink. Our rules don't specify that, but we want to make sure that there's a thermometer in your freezer or refrigerator, no entries to pests or vermin, cleanable, non-porous surfaces. So the manufactured food facilities are on average inspected on a 3 to 5 year rotation. If you're under a compliance schedule, you'll be inspected annually.
Similar to Melinda, as far as having if you have a permit and your business is on your property, you can do that with retail. But also want to add, if you're in a local health department, that may not be allowed due to zoning ordinances or anything else. But under DSHS, usually you're allowed to do that. Again, separate from your private living quarters, separate structure. So in addition to your basic things as far as non-porous surfaces, easily cleanable walls, floors, and ceilings, we do require a 3-compartment sink. And each of those compartments must be large enough to immerse the largest piece of equipment or utensil to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized. At least one hand washing station in your food prep area, food handling area, and their ware washing area. If that one hand sink is accessible by or from all those areas, then one is, and then of course one for your restroom. So a lot of the questions that we get is, hey, can I use a restroom that's in my private home? Under DSHS, you must submit a variance or a kind of a waiver for that requirement, which is fairly easy. It's not uncommon for us to approve that, but also that's something you need to contact your local health department if that's something that's going on in that area.
If anybody had any questions regarding manufactured food licenses, they can call our office. It's on our website, and our email address is on our website also.
If you're unsure if you need a manufactured foods license or a retail license, contact either of us, and our number is on our website as well as our email.
For manufactured foods, it's every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Same with retail, every 2 years, yes. So the application does, if you look on our website and look at the application, it will say that it's about 4 to 6 weeks to process, and it's pretty much within that time frame that it takes to get your license, yes, or permit.
I know one question I get quite a bit when they look at the application, when they're filling out, they're not sure what level to purchase for the manufactured foods license. So I always tell them, if they don't know their gross annual sales, they're starting out, they're new in the business, to put themselves in the lowest category. So if they're selling less than $9,999 worth of packaged meat, to purchase the license that's $103 for the 2 years. And then as their sales increase, they can always call licensing and put themselves in the next increment above. Generally speaking, what licensing will say to you is wait till your renewal period.
Okay.
But like I said, if you don't know going into the business how much money you're going to be making, put yourself in the lowest category, and you just call licensing, verify with them, but most likely they'll tell you wait till your renewal period. If an inspector finds a facility that is not licensed, they will cite them and issue them a notice of inspectional observation. It's a document, and we will send them a warning letter and give them 20 to 30 business days to come into compliance.
So a lot of things that we address in our establishments is a specialized process. So we see a lot of reduced oxygen packaging or vacuum packaging of meats. So under retail, that's considered a specialized process. So there are some documents that need to be submitted, such as a HACCP plan, which means a hazard analysis of critical control points. So, and this is minimum requirement for the FDA food code, which the Texas Food Establishment Rules now references. So if you plan to do some reduced oxygen packaging, feel free to contact us, and we'll let you know what documents you need to submit. And same thing with their local health department. They may have their own procedures of how to submit those documents, but before you conduct those processes, those documents need to be submitted and reviewed and approved before you do that. I think beef jerky is another thing that we see. So that's another specialized process because you're making something that needs temperature control, right? And you dry it, you smoke it to reduce the water activity or dry enough for it to be shelf stable. So that also needs HACCP plan and a variance, and show us how you're making this safe product, right? So what measurements, what values are you keeping track of? And our inspector will check all the logs and temperature logs and water activity and all that.
Under manufactured foods, I find people just don't know where to start. They don't know which permit to start with, or if they need multiple or just one. I walk them through our website and I show them where the links are to the PDF version of our application or the online portal. I tell them to go through a PDF version, print it out, look at all the questions, get all your forms and all your information ready, even if you want to do the online portal, so you have everything together to start. And I encourage them to call the licensing office if they don't understand what number or what address goes where, because it can get confusing sometimes. And I also walk them through the frequently asked questions. There's a lot of good information in the frequently asked questions section. We have a tab called Rules and Regulations. All our rules and regs are all in one spot. And to go over the good manufacturing practice rules, which go over the basic rules that what an inspector will be looking at in your facility. So generally I find people just don't know where to start.
Questions that we get are, where can I have my animals slaughtered, or how can I start a slaughter facility, a processing facility? And so our group has made a consumer guide that we made available on our website, which answers many of the frequently asked questions. We also have a list of our establishments, current establishments, that we can hand out.
Or just interacting and sharing the knowledge that we have and helping someone start their new business. I mean, that's always rewarding to me. And just giving them the information, because they might have this great idea or this next food truck or next product that's going to be amazing, and a lot of times it is, and it's fun, and giving that information and showing how exciting, or learning how excited they are about their new business.
Yeah, similar to what Jaime said, just hearing people's stories and what product they're coming up with and that they want to put out in the market, and just helping them sort of go through the process and go through our website and see the pertinent information that they need to read through so that they can make an informed decision before starting a business.
Definitely, I think the most rewarding part is helping both the industry and the public produce safe product. I think one of the more fulfilling parts of the job is when you take the phone call from a new upstart, and a year down the road they're opening their doors to a new business. So I think that's really rewarding. Yes. So the state of Texas inspection legend can be sold without any restrictions within the state of Texas. It cannot be sold to other states outside of Texas. For that, you have to have a USDA inspection, and so that would come from USDA FSIS. Okay. When you do custom exempt, that is for the owner of the animal, which has to be established prior to slaughter, and so you could technically do animal shares right now. It's just not called animal shares. What's going to help is that I guess you would call them the purveyor of the animal, the farmer, rancher, will be able to sell a percentage of that animal established before slaughter, and it will have that documented, and then they can take it to a custom exempt facility, and then once that meat is slaughtered, processed, it can be returned to the owner based on the percentages that were established prior to. And so they can do that now. It'll just be spelled out. It'll just be spelled out more clear in the rules.
HACCP is a kind of a method of checks for your product. So to establish critical control points, so where certain things in your process that you must control, right? Depending on if it's a physical hazard, biological hazard, or a chemical hazard, right? And then there's critical limits to that. So for instance, hey, you must hold this at 41 degrees if you're doing ROP, because that's one of the barriers for controlling Clostridium botulinum and Listeria, right? So then there's records that you must keep, verification of that, corrective actions to that. So it's not something that everyone must do, but again, if specialized process, this document must be followed. It must be submitted to the department or your local health department for review, and then implement that in your establishment. And that's what the inspector is going to check if you are doing it right. So they'll look at your records that you must keep for review and all that.
In the examples that you're interested in, is if a rancher is taking their cattle to a MSA or USDA facility, under manufactured foods, they're going to be considered a private labeler. So the USDA MSA facility will process, package, label your product, and under manufactured foods, we are licensing them to hold their product or for further distribution, not to manipulate the product in any way.
Because once you open that package and start manipulating it, then now you're into the retail realm. So because all of your revenue is coming from this private label product, that's what you need a manufactured foods license.
Okay.
So once you open it up and maybe cut it in half and give it to someone, that's one retail transaction or process. Now you need a retail permit, unless you reach that threshold. But yeah, so it's very important that you don't open the package anymore to remain a manufactured food license.
Generally speaking, for manufactured foods, we do have a section on our website that goes over labeling, but in particular to beef sales, MSA or USDA has an office that oversees the labeling. So once it comes out of MSA or USDA and it comes to manufactured foods, that label is usually not changed. It's sold as is.
For our grant of inspection, those establishments submit their labels and our office approves them. There's no labels for custom exempt. It's just that they're required to be stamped not for sale with the customer's name.
And also, like Jaime said, if it's the package is open, part of it could be retail, but if they decide to wholesale the product, then it goes back this way.
Yeah, if they open a package of inspected product, in our verbiage, it loses inspection. In order for that to maintain its inspection, it has to be processed under a grant of inspection. So they could bring in USDA inspected product into a fully inspected MSA facility, process that beef or pork, whatever it is, repackage it, and it would be stamped as state of Texas inspected.
So I guess it depends if you're doing, so if you're doing under DSHS, if you're doing both retail and manufactured food processes, you would only be inspected by our retail. If you, retail inspectors, I think the meat safety, they might show up just to do a random check of the meat products maybe.
So for full grant of inspection facilities, they're inspected every day that the establishment is operating, 100%. For custom exempt facilities, they're inspected quarterly.
So that in your local health department, then you're doing your local health inspection, and then if you're doing manufactured food license processes, you're going to be visited by our DSHS manufactured foods inspector.
And when you are inspected, there'll be times when you are inspected, the inspector will ask you who your suppliers are, where are you getting your product from, who are your customers, what are your processes. They'll look through your facility. They may look at some records, so be prepared with your documents. For manufactured foods, it's unannounced. There are times where maybe we show up and you're not there, and in those circumstances we will accommodate and phone ahead.
Yeah, same thing with retail, unannounced inspections. So you would need a retail license, or retail permit rather, for each physical address under, if you're in DSHS, but same thing with most of the time with local health departments. So one permit per physical address, yes. Okay. We have some places that they happen to be more common now, it seems like. But say they have, at that same address, they have their facility that's inspected by, or have an inspector on site because they have a grant of inspection because they're wholesaling stuff, but then the front side of their business is their retail side. So they're going to have 2 permits for that same location.
We have our separate codes in our database system, so even if a firm has multiple licenses, I will only see the manufactured foods license. I can go search if they have a retail permit or MSA, but in our database it's separated per group.
Yeah, so retail there's only 3, under DSHS retail there's only 3 levels. So it starts off at $258 if you're selling between $0 and $49,999. At $258, and then it's $515 for that second tier, which is $50,000 to $149,999, and then $714 if it's $724 if it's above $150,000. So I think manufactured food has a lot more levels than that. But
I think we have 6 increments. Yeah. Yeah, but the bottom line is anybody has any doubt, questions, need verification, please call any one of our offices.